Story 1. Turning something you love into a business. Often, instead of saying I turned my passion into money, people say I turned something I love into work. I am currently scaling back my photography business because I do not love photography like I used to. It is work now. Story 2. You run a cute little coffee shop and bookstore. I bet you picture yourself sipping a cup of coffee and chatting about Cormac McCarthy with an elderly gentleman in a tweed coat. You are never going to be profitable, but you will not realize it until about 2.5 years in. That gentleman never showed up. He has a Kindle. Story 3. A self-sustaining family farm is practically impossible for a single family to achieve. Story 4. Becoming a small farmer is harder than you expect. You work harder than you thought possible, more of your body hurts than you knew, you earn less than you imagined, and people still tell you they can get it cheaper at Walmart. Story 5. Farming is usually passed down through generations because the startup costs would never be covered by the profits. Story 6. Not moving on from a partner and saying, I still love you, after years of not being together is very sad and unhealthy. Story 7. Some people consider attention deficit hyperactivity disorder some sort of superpower. It is absolutely not. Story 8. Traveling for work is exhausting. Long flights and airport procedures, living out of a suitcase, and catered meals that limit choices and are often unhealthy. Every minute is scheduled and you are expected to spend the whole time with colleagues. Definitely 9 to 5, but also lunch and usually dinner. After work drinks are often expected, and sometimes there is a group brunch. You are always in performance mode and frequently meeting new people. You miss your family, including your pets, and have no time to switch off and be yourself. It is even worse if time zones mean you can only talk to family in the early morning or late at night. I can imagine how much harder it is with young children. My husband travels every few months, usually internationally, for about a week. That is far less than some people, which I am grateful for. I recently spent 2 days at a work conference for the first time and realized he was not exaggerating when he said he usually hated traveling for work. It might be enjoyable if you are single and truly love your work, but it is not for me. Story 9. Birthing and raising a baby is hard. People acknowledge it is not easy, but it is often much harder than imagined, especially without a good support system. Note: I am glad many people felt they could relate and have an open discussion. In our society, we often forget it is acceptable to have multiple complex emotions, especially about parents and children. It is not simply positive versus negative. Anyone who agrees with this post can still love their children and enjoy being a parent and not want to change things. You can dislike being a parent yet still love and care for your children. You can also adore children and never want to be a parent yourself. All of these feelings are valid. Feel how you feel and take everything one small step at a time. Just try not to take those feelings out on the world. Story 10. People romanticize working yourself to the bone as a badge of honor, treating hustling around the clock as the only path to success. You see glorified late nights, sacrificed weekends, and constant grinding. In reality, it is exhausting and often leads to burnout rather than success. In films, the overworked genius makes a breakthrough and changes the world, but in real life you are more likely to become stressed, sleep-deprived, and miss out on what makes life worth living. Balance is not laziness. It is smart. Real success usually happens when you have the energy and mental space to enjoy it. Story 11. Objectively looking at your life and deciding to turn it around is difficult. A lot of people think the hard part is evaluating their lives and identifying what needs to change, and that it will get easier after that. The true challenge is processing those insights and maintaining that mindset over time. Many people fall into an unhealthy cycle of disappointment and self-doubt. They genuinely want to improve, but end up subconsciously pushing those thoughts away. Story 12. Owning a restaurant. Every so often someone would say how much fun it would be to run a restaurant. I used to write restaurant reviews on the side for a small local newspaper. A colleague at my day job told me he and a friend were going to start a restaurant, each investing $75,000. They had no food service experience and thought it would be fun. I took him to a nearby cafe with excellent food, called the owner over, and asked if he had any advice for my colleague. He replied, Get your $75,000 in cash in $100 bills. Bring the bills here. I'll give you a plate and a book of matches. Put the bills on the plate and set them on fire. What? Said my friend. It's simple. You'll lose the same amount of money as you would in the long run, but you'll save yourself many months of pain. Eating at a restaurant can be relaxing. No other aspect of that business is. Story 13. Island living. Life is hard unless you're rich. Yes, I live in paradise, but I pay about $5.25 per gallon for gas. My rent for a one-bedroom is $2,200 plus utilities, which are outrageously expensive. A box of cereal costs about $15 and is not family size. My mail gets lost in Puerto Rico a lot. Power outages are frequent, and we recently had 2 days without running water. Story 14. We romanticize almost everything, but it is much harder than people realize. Story 15. Writing a novel is not necessarily easy, and even when you are on a roll, it is the biggest time sink. It is not something you can squeeze in before work as a permanent routine. Story 16. Higher education is not all parties and socializing. Can be very lonely and isolating. Story 17. Life as an artist is hard work for little pay. It is discouraging and degrading when people talk down about your work. It is frustrating to see people far less talented succeed because of luck or because they already have wealthy friends. Many people more talented than you are, competing for the same sales and clients. Dealing with galleries, museums, and art collectives can be cutthroat. At the end of the day, there is the thought that you might be the next Picasso, but that recognition may come only after you die, so you would not get to enjoy the fame or fortune. Story 18. High-paying corporate jobs are not all boss babes and power suits. Depending on the industry, they can mean 90-hour weeks and no energy left for life outside work. I had a big corner office with a window, a condo on the 32nd floor of the Las Vegas Strip, car service, laundry service, cleaning service, a housekeeper, and a closet full of designer clothes. It was great that I could take care of myself and my family, but the job literally sucked the life out of me. After 3 years, I was so depressed I did not get out of bed for 3 weeks and almost lost my job. That life is not what people make it out to be. Story 19. The idea of a dream job is misleading. The mindset of do what you love and you will never work a day in your life is nonsense. Everything has hard moments. Story 20. I'm not a big fan of the jealousy, overprotective, and possessive trend that has become common recently. I understand the desire to be protected and the reasoning behind a partner feeling jealous, but I honestly cannot fathom how normalized it has become. I do not want to feel jealous. I firmly believe that feeling stems from insecurity or a lack of trust. Story 21. Many people say they would love to have twins. The reality is that you are likely to have a high-risk pregnancy and a greater chance of premature birth. Caring for 2 newborns is much harder than caring for one, and the same goes for sleep deprivation. Twins are also more likely to have issues not seen in full-term babies. My twins had colic and reflux, and I was so exhausted I hallucinated. It may have looked like I had it together pushing 2 sleeping babies in a stroller, but I averaged 1 to 2 hours of sleep a night. I pushed them because it was the only way they slept for any length of time. I love my twins, but I would have preferred they were born at least a year apart. Story 22. Working in the beauty industry, I am a professional makeup artist and many people think it's glamorous and fun because you get to look cute and make people feel beautiful. It is fun, but that is only about 10% of the work. The job is tough, mentally draining, and expensive. It can cause neck, back, and wrist problems, and it is not an easy career. Still, it is absolutely wonderful if it is your passion. I feel blessed to have owned my business for 10 years, to have worked with amazing people, and to have done some great gigs. I don't know how more established makeup artists handle the pressure they face, but I wanted to share that all jobs in the beauty industry are tough. Story 23. Being a doctor presents challenges. I have had clients who are doctors and feel that others see only their professional role. Their job often severely interferes with their social and family life, depending on the specialty. Story 24. Living off the grid in the woods, independent of society, is something very few people today could do. Story 25. I learned this today. Don't become a married farmer with kids. Story 26. Boxing and mixed martial arts involve striking at your face. That is not fancy. Story 27. Revolutions. So many people are calling for one and do not comprehend what they are asking for. When a government is overthrown, all of the services that the poorest people rely on are cut off. No food stamps, no healthcare, no shelter, nothing. The first thing that happens in times like that is a great deal of violence, and the main victims are women and children. I tried to explain this to someone and she replied that as a black person she knows what the stakes are. If you think things will work out for you, you are not really considering the consequences. Story 28. Being alone, dating yourself, and healing can be incredibly lonely and difficult. It is easy to slip into negative thoughts. Story 29. Making money online via YouTube or Instagram is possible, but it is easier to earn money in a regular job. Story 30. Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. They always say this is the way to go, but goddamn, years of 10 to 12-hour workdays and a lot of crazy things make it much rougher than you would think. Far more work goes into starting a career for someone who is not a college graduate than people realize. You know it is hard work, but until you do it, you do not know for sure. I have come across many people who give the bare minimum at work and are surprised when they do not last long at a company. Some people think they are entitled to a career or money without doing the necessary work. Yes, a lot of achievement is influenced by chance. I am talking about what you need to do when you get that opportunity. Story 31. Mental illness is often portrayed in fiction as something that rides alongside genius or creativity. I am not a genius. I am somewhat creative. Mental illness is awful. There is no upside. Story 32. Being a musician and artist is difficult. The top 0.01% make a great deal of money, while the remaining 99.99% make do with scraps. Story 33. International romances in which someone moves to another country to be with their partner. Story 34. Insomnia. Sleep deprivation takes a toll on your health. You will not be writing poems or drinking coffee when you cannot sleep. You will be suffering. Story 35. Professional sports involve athletes, coaches, staff, and media. Work often takes place nights, weekends, and holidays. The environment is high stress and extremely demanding. Expectations are high. Some people are paid handsomely. Others earn well but only for a short time. Many behind-the-scenes staff are paid poorly. Story 36. Taking care of elderly relatives at home because you promised not to put them in a nursing home is rewarding. The physical tasks are the easiest. Adult diapers and housekeeping are simpler than the awkward, painful role reversal. The hard part is moving from them being in charge with full self-determination to having to step in and decide what is feasible because you are now responsible. It is difficult to tell your grandmother that she can no longer drive or your grandfather that he can no longer go hunting, because those activities are no longer safe for them or for others. Keeping them close is wonderful, but it is not a warm and fuzzy Hallmark card. Story 37. Living in Paris is an absolute nightmare. Don't get me wrong. The city is beautiful, but the quality of life is very poor. Story 38. Growing up poor and on the streets, I get it. You persevered through that, but don't make it seem like you're for that street life. You want better for yourself. Story 39. Snow. It's cold up in the mountains. Those who romanticize it are people who don't have to wake up early to melt ice so others can have warm water. It's brutal to work while everyone else is sound asleep in their blankets. Story 40. Caring for a person with a severe intellectual disability. My aunt, who is 54, lived with my grandparents until my grandfather died and my grandmother moved to a care home for Alzheimer's disease. She then moved in with us because my father was her next of kin. She has lived with us for 14 years. She cannot manage money, make appointments, work, or cook beyond using a microwave. She has little long-term memory. You can tell her not to do something and she will do it again. Parents often find young children with disabilities endearing, but needs can change over time. A 5-year-old child with severe autism and anger issues is less endearing when they are 20 and may be able to harm an adult. Depending on the disability, A person may never be independent, move out, or marry. Many parents care for their children until they die, and then other caregivers must take over. This responsibility creates significant stress on families, relationships, and finances. Story 41. Roughing it. Going on organized camping trips is one thing, but spending any time without a guarantee of clean water, a hot meal, or shelter is a real nightmare. Story 42. Pulling oneself out of poverty is not simple. No person in poverty can simply stop being lazy and become middle class in a matter of weeks, let alone years. The number of societal barriers to class mobility is astounding, and those who most often lecture about pulling themselves up by their bootstraps are the most incentivized to pretend those barriers do not exist. Story 43. Moving abroad. Good Lord, the paperwork, applications, fees, and time. Story 44. Being an artist is misunderstood. People do not realize that a detailed piece can take weeks to perfect, yet assume they can underpay for it because it does not count as labor. The idea of being an artist implies we did not practice, devote time, endure failures, or seek education. Our time is not valued because we are seen as special or gifted, and therefore morally obligated to give away our work. Everyone romanticizes the artist in an urban bohemian studio with everything they need, and overlooks the struggle to find people willing to pay for their work or to balance creativity with commission work. Story 45. I am unable to work because of a disability. I have struggled with agoraphobia, been bedbound, lost muscle and weight, and constantly feel as if I am encased in cement when I move. People tell me they wish they could stay home, do nothing, and get paid for it, or they ask how I became so thin and say they would do anything to be that small. This is a particular kind of torture, and the small government payments I receive are far from adequate to live on. Story 46. When I was a child, I could not wait to be an adult. Now that I am, it is tough. I can do whatever I want, but there is so much pressure, and it is much harder to make friends. Story 47. Self-love means learning how to love yourself. Many people think it is just going to a restaurant or the movies by yourself or treating yourself. Self-love can also mean recognizing people in your life who are harming you and cutting them off, which can be painful. It can mean identifying your own flaws and doing what is necessary to address them, for example, weight loss and mental health care. It is not always roses and sunshine. Story 48. I have mental health problems. Too many people act as if it is fun. Don't mind me. I am just living with schizophrenia and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Laughing out loud. Story 49. Having kids. Sure, it can be rewarding, but it is so tough to do it right and to always give your best for them. It will change you like very little else will. Story 50. Large penises. I am serious. I have been with partners who were a solid 8 to 9 inches and larger, and that was painful. I would prefer a shorter, sturdier 5 or 6 inch penis over anything larger. Story 51. Traveling solo can be liberating and exciting for some people, but I have never felt lonelier. Story 52. One thing people often romanticize, but that is actually incredibly tough, is starting a business. Story 53. Building your own house is like a second full-time job and can take years. Decision fatigue tempts you to give up, choose cookie-cutter styles, or take the cheap route. Some mistakes are permanent. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.